Hello, Not Manly here, and welcome back to episode 31, the second half of episode 31 of Kerbal Space Program. We have finally updated to KSP 1.6.1, and all of our add-ons are fully updated. And here we are aboard Gilly Amusements 8, and I seem to have not updated my ability to fly a rocket, because this one ended up, well that happened. But then I'm like, you know what, I haven't flown this thing in a long time. Let's see how far I can get with this. What I didn't realize was I had lost one of my surrounding boosters, one of my 1.25 meter Reliant liquid fuel engines. But I thought, well, let's take this thing up. And I do manage to get those staged away, and I'm on my twin bore engines now, and I am trying to adjust my inclination for Gilly. At the same time, I'm having to tilt up because my time to apoapsis was dropping pretty quickly, so I had to tilt up, much like how Matt Lauder will tilt up a much heavier launch. But I do manage to get this thing reasonably lined up with Gilly, and by the time I eject that stage, I actually don't need very much delta V to circularize this orbit. Look at that, only 200, just under 300 meters per second. And I get my inclination fixed up with Gilly at the same time. And there we go, not too bad for not having flown this craft in quite some time. You may have noticed the terrain kind of zooming, or kind of brightening and then darkening. I've got the current edition of Scatterer, which is only for KSP 1.5. It's not quite working on 1.6 the way I'd like it, but that's okay. We can still see some beautiful Eve sunrises here. And here we are ejecting Gilly Amusements 6, Gilly Amusements 8, all the way out to Gilly. And I cannot read our Kerbal's names because my preview window was too small. Well, let's just as long as you know they're tourists. At the same time, I got KerbNet up there because this is Alien Space Program's 1.6. All of the old Kerbin artifacts are now gone from the homeworld, so I am checking for new artifacts. Most of these will be tracking stations. But hey, there we go. And we do get Gilly Amusements 8 out to Gilly with delta V to spare, and an insertion that only requires about 200 meters per second. We got more than enough to come back to home on the surface of Eve. If you didn't know already, Alien Space Program's 1.6 incorporates Ohio Bob's Realistic Atmospheres 1.3, which makes Eve a considerably tougher place to leave from with a surface air pressure of nearly 10 atmospheres. My goodness. That's why the Space Center is at an altitude of about 4 kilometers up. But we are able to get this craft that was originally designed for Alien Space Program's 1.3 up to a low Gilly orbit. And there we go, doing our orbit insertion, and I'm looking at that orbit and going, well, we're going to pass over the light side of Gilly, so let's just deorbit right now. Make sure we land on the sun-facing side of Gilly. This thing has plenty of fuel. We don't need to go near the Gilly base to top up our fuel. Here we go, lining up for our descent to the surface. We're going to cut away a good chunk of that because, hey, this is Gilly, and gravity takes its sweet time trying to bring craft down to the surface. Nothing like Minmus, where all you gotta do is not be dumb with the throttle and you can get down there. One thing I didn't do on this craft was I did not replace that Poodle liquid fuel engine. In KSP 1.6, the Poodle liquid fuel engine is a dual nozzle engine. This is a craft I imported from 1.5. But hey, it's got the same properties, so maybe we can just pretend it's the new dual nozzle Poodle. No problem. Let's get these guys down to the surface of Gilly, nice and gentle-like. There we go. Our tourists are really enjoying themselves on this trip. Turns out after these guys get back, there is a long list of lots and lots and lots of tourist contracts waiting for us back at Mission Control. So what I think I'll do is I will grind those contracts, we'll earn some extra funds, and at the same time let the Gilly base continue to do some research for us so that we can get our final spaceplane parts that we're looking for. We're looking for the Lucifer liquid fuel engine. And there we go. Now, I just burn pretty much straight up here and make sure we're lined up retrograde at relation to Eve here. So when I eject from Gilly, I am at an Eve periapsis of within the atmosphere, much like we've done before. Now, I haven't reverted this launch, even with the accidents that we had on ascent. I've got this thing all the way up here. If I wanted to, I could revert right here, but I'm like, well, let's see how far we can take these guys. In the meantime, Sentinel-3 is getting up to its maneuver for its approach to Jewel. Now, with the import, it looks like the orbit has drifted somewhat, so we are going to readjust this maneuver so that we get an encounter with Tylo and that we do a gravity assist as close as we can to Tylo. Now, even though Alien Space Program 1.6 introduces an atmosphere for Tylo, I've got that turned off, so it behaves like the original Tylo prior to me migrating this over. And here goes our correction burn, a pretty significant one, just under 300 meters per second. But this is a set of nuclear engines. They are very, very efficient. And we're not going to need that much delta V to get around once we are in orbit of Jewel. We'll just be doing flybys of the various moons, gathering science as we go, and hopefully being able to transmit it back. Doing our final adjustments here. Come on. We do get the capture at Tylo, but the inclination's a little off, so I do a little bit of an adjustment first. I'm going the wrong way, so we'll just go the other way. We'll go from anti-normal to normal, and it only takes a little puff. There we go. And when we get around Tylo, we will be in pretty good alignment with the rest of the moons at Jewel. Now, coming back to Gilly Amusements 8, I've got a periapsis of about 32 kilometers. This worked for the previous version of Alien Space Programs and Realistic Atmospheres, but I have no idea at this point how we're going to manage this with the new atmosphere. So what I ended up doing was I quick-saved right above Eve's atmosphere, so in case I had to raise my periapsis by burning radial out, I could do that. In the meantime, I'm continuing to map the new anomalies above the surface of Eve. Most of these are going to be relays, but we don't have the randolith. That's what it is. We haven't found the randolith on the surface of Eve yet. That could give us another science boost. So we're going to look for that and hopefully find it amongst all these other question marks up here. And there we go. I think that's the Purple Space Center there. Yeah, that's the Purple Space Center. We don't need that one. We'll take that one off. Refresh, 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 refresh. Coming in at 4 times regular speed because who has the patience to wait for return? We're coming in at a much wilder inclination than Gilly was itself, but hey, that's okay. Here we go, getting ready for our approach. I end up quick saving right around here in case I need to burn up. That didn't sound right. In case I need to burn radial out. There we go. And we eject that service module right about here. We still have that Probodobenine HECS tucked away in the nose cone so that we can point retrograde. The only thing is I didn't get much of a chance to turn off SAS before I lost signal pretty quickly. So, well, you'll get to see what happens pretty soon. And there we go. Retrograde. This is also Ferrum Aerospace Research Continued. Working properly in KSP 1.6.1. Now, I want to turn off SAS when I start losing signal. The problem is I lose signal before I even get a chance. Yep, there it is. Gone, poof. And now the craft is stuck in SAS hold and it is pitching downward, which means it's going to enter a much lower part of the atmosphere by the time it gets down to periapsis. And, well, the G-forces are just going to be far too strong for these tourists. Look at that. We're already at 4, 5 Gs, 6 Gs. These things only have a 5G tolerance. These poor guys, they're going to get smushed in those seats. Hang on there, guys. Don't panic. You're going to be okay. Nope. They're not going to be okay. Let's try this again. There we go, I burn radial out for a little bit. End up changing periapsis to about 40 kilometers. We'll see how well we do there. And we try this again. Now I've got Chatterer installed, but it seems I forgot to remove all the chat from this installation, so I have to do that later. There we go, eject and trying this re-entry burn again. And the tourists are getting instructions saying, hang on there guys, make sure you come back home safe, follow your instructions. There we go, we turn SAS off, and now it holds a straight ballistic re-entry. So now these guys aren't going to get smooshed in their seats. We're still doing well over Mach 16 here, look at that. There we go, there's Scatterer doing its thing with that gorgeous Eve sunrise. Look at that. Yep, we're a little high. We're going to come around for another pass and then we're going to re-enter properly. Yep, environmental visual enhancements is mostly working. Looks like mountaintops show up through the clouds so you can see that black band there, but hey, that'll get fixed in time. Just gotta be patient, let everybody else update their add-ons. In the meantime, it'll work for us. These guys are coming through on their second re-entry pass. Here we go. There we go. Another gorgeous Eve sunrise, only to have another gorgeous Eve sunset because we're going to dip below the horizon pretty quickly. And there we go. Whatever goes up must come down. And our tourists are directly above the Eastern Sea, so it'll be a pretty safe landing, but it's a pretty slow landing with those parachutes. We're only doing 2 meters per second. Oh my goodness. That's a little slow. You know, I heard that some of the Venera probes didn't even need parachutes to land on Venus. I thought that was fascinating. Splashdown! These guys are back home safe. And we get a few more funds to continue to build our space program, to get up to our Mark III space plane. And there we go. And not shown here was Mission Control overloading us with tourists. But hey, we'll see those in a future episode. Until then, I'm not Manly. Fly safe.